You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All right, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Derek, and joined, as always, by your co-host, Kevin. Alex has got that whole JOB thing going on, so he's not going to be with us tonight, but I'm sure we'll see him again next week. Kevin, how are we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I am comfortably in the playoffs of many of my leagues. I'm fighting for a playoff spot here in a couple more, and there's a couple where this season didn't shake out my way, right? Or I'm playing to be spoiler, if you will, here this last week. But it's crunch time, right? It is down and dirty business time where you either are cementing your seating, or you get to play spoiler, or you are fighting like hell to get into the playoffs. So a great week. Some good matchups coming down the pike here for this Sunday. But most importantly, we are here to help y'all, right? Any sort of waiver wire question, if you were riding the Sam Howell train, and obviously the Brian Robinson injury, trying to figure out what that might mean. Ramondre going down, Trevor Lawrence going down, Jamar Chase coming back. Yay, right? We're happy about that. So still some things to navigate as we get ready for this week, but hopefully we can help everybody out, man. How you doing tonight?
I can't complain. It is another glorious night getting to talk some fantasy football with yourself here, and always a fun, like Tuesdays, Fridays, some of my favorite days of the week, because get to sit down and we get to talk football. So cannot complain. Managed to lock up the home league playoff there, even with some bad roster decisions early on my part there throughout the season. So managed to lock up a playoff spot. Now it's just all about trying to get the seeding to play out there. So that'll be good. And same with you. I get a lot of those playoff rosters or playoff spots kind of locked up, and for some other leagues, I'm definitely trying to play spoiler. There's 3 or 4 different leagues out there where I was sitting just outside the playoff picture, and I'm playing a team that needs to win and get in. So we're going to see what we can do on having some other people sit on the couch with me come fantasy playoffs in some of those leagues. So it'll be good. It'll be fun. Oh, that's one.
As I was saying, so 2 of my most embarrassing leagues this year. I'm in 2 different work leagues, and I'm playing spoiler in both of them. Both leagues, I'm playing spoiler in. Ran up against a couple buzzsaws earlier in the year, had some injuries. I had Nick Chubb in both those leagues. So that hurt me right away. I was trying to scrap heap away, but I found wins during the wrong weeks. So I missed out on Kyron Williams. I missed out on Jerome Ford. I was, running Najee and who else was I running? James Cook to start with, and Jalen Waddle not panning out, right? So, I mean, we all have rosters like this, but it sucks that it's my work league. Like, the people I'm playing against in my work league don't know what they're doing. And I could not get a roster composition to work at my work league. And it just burns me a little bit. It just, it's a sense of, like, what the hell, right? Like, a bunch of these leagues, I don't know anybody in them, right? You and I are in a bunch of leagues together, so
Right.
we know each other. But how many leagues are we in where we don't know anybody? Like
30,
right? And there's a couple where we know guys from different shows, and they've started the league, and we jump on and do that. But there's still, random sleeper leagues. You're up one night, you have too many adult sodas, and you're like, oh, hey, join this league. I'm like, okay,
right?
And every single one of those, I feel like I'm doing okay. And the work league where I know everybody, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, aren't you supposed to be good at this or something? I'm like, shut your face. Shut your face. It is not the way I envisioned this season going. But
Right.
nevertheless, here we are. So we're doing all right. I'm happy. I'm currently the 1 seed in the home league. still have to play this week, right? Nothing's set. I could drop down to the 3 seed. Derek and I were talking about that. And Derek, I think what your range is
Anywhere from 6 to 8.
right? 6 to 8. So there's tons of seeding implications. So this time next week, Derek and I might not actually be talking to each other because then it's, if we're facing in the playoffs, it's like hate week.
Right.
You can't talk to your opponent and be nice.
Right. You got that big rivalry week going on. And in the home league, we've seen that where the 8 seed knocks off the 1 seed as much as they don't. Right. Like that's kind of the crazy thing on that is most leagues, right? If you get the 1 seed, you're going up against like the 8 seed. Yeah, it's usually a pretty easy cakewalk there, and not the case. We've seen the 1 seed lose to the 8 seed more than we have not. Like the 2-7, that one seems to kind of work out there a little bit more in favor of the 2 seed. But again, right, like anything can happen in that 1 week, and teams seem to come alive. And we've had several league winners, champions, come from the 8 seed or the 7 seed. So yeah, seeding in some cases for that home league is simply just a number in some cases. So it should be
Yeah.
good.
Yep. I've been victim to that a couple times. And then you follow it the whole way through. Well, my team scored this. What did their team? And you would have smoked the rest of the playoff field, right? It was just that one week. Like, golly. So that's why we play.
Right.
But hoping that doesn't happen this year.
Well, that's okay. If I'm the 7th seed, maybe we'll just see each other in the championship week.
There
That'll
you
be
go.
okay.
That'd be fun.
That'd be
All
okay.
show finals.
Exactly. In week 1, if that's a whole other ball of wax. And we'll cross that bridge if we need to. So
Right.
should be good though. But yep, let's go ahead and hit up a couple of these questions here real quick. COD Reaper saying that the matchup is Tua. Oh, real quick, he's got any changes needed. He's 6 and 7, ranked as 5th in the league. Dobbs, Mostert, Cook, Thielen, Metcalf, Taysom Hill, Debo. The bench is Lawrence, Brian Robinson, Tyler Boyd, Juwan Johnson, Jacoby Myers, and Curtis Samuel. He's going up against Tua, Brees Hall, Warren. I would say that's probably A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ferguson, Kyron Williams. Bench is Murray, Connor, Mitchell, Monty, DJ Moore, Olave. Thoughts? You have your work cut out for you.
Dude's roster stacked.
Yeah.
I would possibly be thinking Myers over Thielen this week. But specifically for your waiver wire, look at what you have out there for wide receivers. Like, let's see if we can drop Tyler Boyd or Juwan Johnson and see if we can help you out for receivers. So if you don't mind, take a peek at your waiver wire and shoot us some names that are on there for this week, and let's see if we can help find some upside for you. Because I don't think you're going to get that upside from Thielen. Myers is possible, but I have a feeling we might be able to find you something a little juicier.
Right. Saying he's ranked first in the consolation game, fighting for the semifinal spot. So, yeah, you're going to need a puncher's chance in this one, right? Like that's a little bit of a David Goliath type of matchup. You're going to need some massive upside to try and pull off a W there. Ajiji saying, "Sup, fellas? If you guys can't get me ready for the playoffs, we'll give it a shot. See what we can do. Absolutely." And then Ajiji saying that COD Reaper saying that he has to make 4th or better, and he's holding on. First seed's 11 and 2. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those that if you win, you could potentially get in there and maybe catch a loss from that 4th seed and squeak in there. But yeah, send us some waiver wires and let's see what we can think there. Ajiji saying the current roster is Herbert, Kyler, wide receivers, Hill, Keenan, Puka, DJ, Addison. RBs are Gibby, Monty, White, Warren, Swift, Gainwell. Tight ends are Hill, Goddard. Defense is Cleveland. Thoughts on who's the most droppable to add a kicker? Goddard and Palmer currently on the IR. Only have 5 bench spots.
Goddard's already on your IR. So I know you have Swift, but the answer is Gainwell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I know you don't love that answer. We've kind of gone rounds about Gainwell before, but if you need to add the kicker, it's Gainwell who you need to drop to add that kicker.
Right. Yeah, that's the easy one. Like there's nothing else that makes sense there for you to drop, because all you're doing with some of these players that you'd be dropping, you're adding fuel to your opponent's fire at that point. You know, if they're in need of one of those positions there. Like those are guys that need to be rostered. So, but yeah, I don't know that there's anything else that you really need to look at or do there. You got a pretty solid roster front to back there. Just Gainwell for a kicker. So, again, if you have any other questions, thoughts, throw them in the chat. Let's get those rocking and rolling. Anything news notes kind of stand out to you that you want to hit up here before we start getting into some Pine and Shine recap?
More injuries, right? I mean, we kind of covered that at the top of the show. Joe Flacco looked really good. Like that's newsworthy, right? Coming out and starting and being able to sling it down the field a little bit, and he was extremely serviceable for what the Browns needed. The Jets are going, why the hell didn't we sign him back?
Right.
So, just talk about that. The leak from the Jets that Zach Wilson's scared to take over the starting job again. That was comical.
Yeah.
So
it's only so many times you can kick a dog before you don't want to hunt.
No, exactly. So, other than that, I mean, the news of the football world has been about the college football playoffs. I mean,
Yes.
the NFL has not had anything wild and wonderful. Ramondre, Trevor Lawrence, Tank Dell, right? That was another one. Poor Tank Dell, right? That one was not fun. So definitely some guys who are contributing that you're not going to have this week. So you're looking to pivot. So hopefully, if you're a Tank Dell owner, you had Justin Jefferson, and now he's coming back as you lose Tank Dell, and you can kind of pivot right back to the guy you drafted to begin with, hopefully. But some tougher ones to navigate around.
I saw too that the Jets had released the starter Tim Boyle today. So that was an interesting move, right? Like the Jets just can't seem to. The Jets are jetsing, is what they're doing for all intents and purposes. There's usually saying that he knows it. He knows about Gainwell. He's just scared because of what's going on with Swift right now. So I get it, man. Like,
right? I mean, that's a move you don't have to make until Sunday morning,
right?
Like, so you can have all week long to figure out what's going on before you have to do anything. Like, yes, and I guess as long as you have open waivers Sunday morning. If not, it's a Saturday night move where that you'll have to do that. But you got time. You don't have to pull the trigger here Tuesday night into Wednesday morning for a kicker. Like they're a dime a dozen.
Right. And there's some gamesmanship that you can do with that as well, right? Where if you wait until late and you've got the open waivers on Sunday and you just add the free agent, move on, drop, nobody's going to pick up Gainwell between, almost every league. He's going to go onto a waiver until the game's clear anyway. And then you can go right back into waiver priority, fab, all of those types of things to try and get him again. Same thing too, if you do the Saturday waiver into Sunday morning type of thing, just depending upon how your league set up. But you can play that thing to a point where nobody else is going to pick him up, and you're going to have a shot at the actual waivers for him as well there, right? And quite frankly, with what you've got in front of him on the waivers anyway, if Swift really does go down, I don't know that I'm going to be playing Gainwell over Monty White or Gibbs. Like there's probably a better, or probably more of a chance that I play Gibbs and Monty over Gainwell. So
especially against Chicago this week,
right? So there's lots of things that you can kind of go through there and definitely have some gamesmanship with the Gainwell there. I was hoping you picked up on that one.
I
was
got
trying
you.
really hard to be
Gamesmanship.
a little punny over here.
A little punny. Bad dad joke.
Exactly. Problem is going to have to drop Gainwell to elevate Goddard.
Again,
There's
Goddard. I
yeah.
know you love your Eagles, man, but Goddard is meh. Like Taysom Hill's a more relevant tight end than Dallas Goddard this season. Last year, you felt different, right? Goddard was getting some end zone targets and was a little bit more involved with this offense. They're just not using Goddard a whole hell of a lot. And even when he was healthy, yes, they was getting some use right before he went out, but I think that was more game script. Like he has not come to fruition on being the top 7 tight end that we drafted him to be, even before the injury.
Yeah. I mean, even before the injury, at most you had 2 usable weeks from him. That was it. He had 2 weeks and on weekly finishes where he finished above tight end 12. If you've got a guy that as a tight end that is not finishing tight end 12 or better on the week, he's losing you the week. So yeah, there's other options to go through there. And Dallas Goedert through his, before the injury, through 9 weeks, gave you 2 usable weeks on that one. So like, I get it. There's a lot of name power there. There's all of those types of things, higher powered offense, all of that, but he's just not very usable. So let Goddard go because my league mates are going to surely grab him. There's certainly something to that.
Let Palmer go.
Yeah. Well, if he has
right?
if he actually has to activate Goddard off the IR is where he's kind of going with that one. Right. If he doesn't carry the injury designation, they activate him, that kind of stuff. Like, I get that. But some of that also depends too on what you've got on the waivers for tight end, right? Like, he's more name power than he's fantasy relevant at this point for you, Gigi. So if you look at when he's done or what he's done so far, tight end 76, 37, 16, 27, 2, there was a good one, 15, 4, 20, 19. On most weeks this season, you could have picked up a guy off the waiver wire and finished above Dallas Goedert on that week there. So that's all I'm trying to say with that one is there's other options there, and that he's not, it's name powers is what's being drawn there. So there could be some gamesmanship to that one where if you drop him, let him sit out there, somebody else picks him up, he can be a landmine on their roster. Are you going through this one here?
Well, I'm going through that, but I'm looking at defenses against tight ends compared to what Philly has, right? So I mean, they're all middle of the road. Like the best matchup you have left is for the championship against Arizona for Goddard.
Right.
Other than that, Dallas, the Giants, and Seattle are all middle of the road against tight end. But those same teams, the Giants are worst against wide receivers over the last 4 weeks. Dallas's numbers are slightly skewed because of the walloping that they put on Washington over Thanksgiving still, but they gave it up to AJ Brown in Philly. You figure that's going to be the course of action again. And Arizona's kind of middle of the pack against wide receivers as well, but we know their defense has been kind of leaky, if not for playing Pittsburgh and kind of being able to keep them in check. So I don't think I don't feel like it's damning. And I know it sounds weird in the name value. I just don't feel like it's damning. So
Right.
I don't know. It's just it's one person's opinion, right? But obviously you got to make the move somewhere, and you're not dropping Hill, Keenan, Puka, DJ Moore. I mean, I wouldn't drop Jordan Addison yet. You have no idea how that's going to look with Jefferson coming back and what that's going to look like. And Gibbs, Monty, White, and Swift, you definitely not dropping. So it's Warren or Gainwell.
And between the two, I'd like the guy that's actually seeing it and isn't just a handcuff.
Right. And especially with Najee, been on the injury report with his knee.
Right.
Short turnaround, everything else. Najee's probably not playing a whole lot this week. Warren's probably he's going to be kind of a DFS darling, right? If we think Najee's limited for the Thursday night game. It's an embarrassment of riches, but this is what happens. I'm struggling with some similar things in our home league because I like my depth where it's at, but I have to shuffle depth around to be able to get Jefferson back in and shuffle around because I only have one tight end on my roster and I got to find another one for this week. So I'm having to make some decisions in my home league too, because Jefferson's coming back and then I got McBride on a bye. So I feel you. Like I understand that it's not fun, but it's the downside of having good depth is at times you have to release good depth to make sure you can fill out your scoring positions.
No. And he's saying, cool. Yeah, it's tough. I got the same outlook though. He did ask though, Gigi, is Zeke worth an ad with current rushing back room? No, I don't think I'll ever play him outside maybe week 16 at Denver. I also wouldn't play him week 16 at Denver. That Denver defense has turned around lately. And outside of CJ Stroud going up and over the top several plays there, they were pretty tough against the run and have been a much improved defense the last few weeks here. So it's one of those that have a couple of big
not
games up front. Yeah, he's
not with the guys that you have. If you were struggling at the position, I think we could make an argument for it. But with the guys and the horses that you have already, you're not playing Zeke.
No, not at all. Alrighty. And then so COD Reaper was posting some of the guys on the waiver. So Wicks, London, Pickens, Dobbs, Moore, Higgins, Jackson Smith, Njigba, Noah Brown, Osborne, Slayton. Go ahead.
Noah Brown would be intriguing if it wasn't the Jets.
Right.
Now that now that Tank Dell's injured. And Njigba, possibly the Colts defense does kind of give it up to receivers. So Higgins is interesting. Dobbs has a plus matchup this week.
And if Watson misses, we've seen Romeo Dobbs be very impactful with Christian Watson not on the field. Even when he's out there, he still has some pretty decent games there. Certainly some touchdown upside. So
staying away from London and Pickens.
Yep.
It's Dobbs, Higgins, or Njigba, I feel like are all better options than Adam Thielen this week.
I would not drop Adam Thielen though to add them. It would be Tyler Boyd that you'd want to drop to pick one of these guys up.
Yeah, I think you could drop Boyd and pick up Higgins right now if you want to keep a piece of Cincinnati. It's a little bit different with Browning, but he was hyper efficient against the Jags.
Right.
Hyper efficient. And the Colts are not a lockdown secondary. So there is room for that. And Njigba going up against the Niners. The Niners have given it up a little bit to receivers this year. So there's some possible upside. And then obviously Dobbs has kind of been Mr. Consistent. He's, 55 yards and a touchdown every other week.
Right. So, alrighty, I like it. And again, guys, any other questions, throw them in the chat. Let's get those rocking and rolling for you. Let's go ahead and move on and hit up some Pine and Shine recaps here. So the Pine and the Shine recap from week 13. And Alex had an okay, put some positive points here for his Pines. Called for Pollard, Ayuk, and Schultz to be Pines. Schultz did not play, so he did not score in this one. Pollard and Ayuk both just not finishing up to their projected ranks on that one. So you got a couple of positive points on that one.
No, fair enough. I nailed my pines again. The pines have done me well.
Yes, they have.
It's the other side of the coin where I've been caught here the last couple weeks and given up some points. But the pines have done me well here. Keenan Allen having a down week was kind of the anchor of what I was able to capitalize on. But nevertheless, these were much needed points to at least try and get respectable in this little exercise we have.
Right. I put up some negative points here. So I lost some points on this one. Really the only one I seem to manage to call right here was Bijan. Mike Evans, Trey McBride, both of those guys certainly coming through with negative points there, and did not have my best pining week. All right, the Shine recap. And with the Shine recap here, nobody had a great week on the Shines. Alex finishing with some negative points with Singletary, Cortland Sutton, Gerald Everett. Cortland Sutton outshined his projection there, but he missed on both Singletary and Everett.
Fair enough. I gave a little bit back, right? And the rankings were spot on. So good for the rankers. Moss and Greg Dortch. I was really hoping Dortch would be able to sneak in, especially with the way the Arizona Cardinals were moving the ball against Pittsburgh, but was not there. And then obviously the DMP for Dalton Schultz. So that was the goose egg, but honestly, that might have saved me.
Yeah. I took some negative points here with Najee, Curtis Samuel, Pat Fryermuth. Curtis Samuel get me some positive points there, but overall was not enough to outdo the negatives gotten by Najee and Pat Fryermuth. Lesson learned. Don't target the Cardinals defense here. Well, apparently. So, all right, that moves us into the week here. And Kevin, you're taking down the top spot for week 13 in the scoring and scooching up there.
So there's a first time for everything, but I guess it was the second.
So you close the gap on Alex and myself there a bit. So you're moving on up. We still got like 5 more
weeks.
5 more weeks. So here we go. And then, yes, COD Reaper, pick up Higgins or Dobbs, right? Higgins probably gives you the bigger ceiling just because he's got bigger playability. Dobbs will give you probably a safer floor.
And that's exactly what it is. Higgins is the higher ceiling play. And going up against the roster that you are, I think you need the ceiling. Yeah, you need the ceiling. And Higgins is the guy that can provide that.
Yeah. As Gigi saying, would you still trust Cleveland D versus Chicago, or you can pick up Houston, Atlanta, Denver, Dallas? This week, with it being at home, Cleveland's defense has played really good in Cleveland. They have not played that great on the road when it comes to fantasy. So I wouldn't have any problem starting Cleveland this week. But if you have some different thoughts or some guys you'd rather see there.
No, the Denver defense is intriguing just because typically when they play the Chargers, they do a good job against Justin Herbert. Where they typically fail is Austin Eckler kind of eats them up, but he has not been very good here lately. He's just not in the game script as much. He's not seeing the passes out of the backfield. It's challenging. So Denver's intriguing, but I do think I would lean towards Cleveland over any of those options here this week.
The Houston one's slightly intriguing to me as well, just because they are taking on the Jets, and we have no idea who the quarterback's going to be at this point, right? I know that they made they signed some guys. They're trying to see, they cut their starter, Tim Boyle, and some interesting reports coming out of there about the relationship between the Jets and Zach Wilson right now. So that would be another one that I could potentially I could see targeting there, but I wouldn't have any problem playing Cleveland versus Chicago at Cleveland. So
yeah, Yeah, and Houston makes sense. And to be safe, Houston might be the safer floor, right? As far as defenses go. The Jets team, now that they are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, is that right? Yes, they're. I guess if they win out, technically they're not, but they're going. The Jets has kind of a murderer's row here coming up, so I'm not opposed to Houston because the quarterback play is so bad. If you wanted to pivot, only because the thing that worries me with Chicago is Justin Fields.
Right.
But at home, I say screw it. I say you keep it. I say you roll Cleveland for this week.
I like it.
You're good. You're so set. The rest of your roster, I think Cleveland, if that's the weak spot of your roster this week, you're doing damn fine.
Right. Yep. And then COD asking start Higgins over Meyer, just making sure.
Yes.
Yep. And just to pull up his roster again. Yeah. Well, yeah. And still would start Higgins over Thielen. So
Yes.
wide receivers, you roll out Higgins, Metcalf, Debo in your flex. Houston plays at Tennessee week 15. I don't need to win this week. So, any other thoughts on any of these questions?
Jacksonville. Sorry, I'm going through Cleveland's. I think it's Cleveland. Yeah, I think it's Cleveland. The toughest matchup Cleveland has left is at Houston. Other than that, they're home games. Home against Jacksonville, backup quarterback. Home against Chicago. If they're mathematically eliminated and they're going for draft picks at that point, who knows what you could see out of Chicago next week. At Houston, that might be the worrisome week just because Houston plays really well at home. CJ Stroud loves playing at home, and he's done some really good things. So that one might be a little bit more challenging where you want to pivot. But then week 17, they're home against the Jets. Like that is an under for betting purposes if I've ever seen one. So I think you keep with Cleveland. Overall, I think your matchups are great. It's just that it's week 16 that we need to worry about, but 14 and 15, I think you're good.
Yep. I like it. Alrighty. Well, let's get us in here and talk about some Thursday night football. And it's not often that we see a total at 30, but we managed to see a total at 30. Pittsburgh favored by 6 against the Patriots here. So, very interesting matchup. What's your thoughts on this game?
Well, the Patriots are coming off a loss where there were a total of 6 points scored in that game. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. In 2023, there was an NFL game with a total of 6 points. Okay, now we're going to move on. I'm going to take Pittsburgh to cover this. I do think that they're questioning, you like that these guys internally are questioning mental toughness and everything else. And typically a Tomlin team will respond, especially a Tomlin team that is fighting for the playoffs. All right. They are not out of it. Truthfully, they're not quite even out of it for the division yet. They could see some different things happen with what's happened in Cincinnati and Cleveland. With their starting quarterback position, along with Pittsburgh now with the Mitch Trubisky show. It's going to be tight. I'm taking the under, but I think Pittsburgh finds a way to win this game in a battle of field goals.
Yeah, I think you're right. The part of the problem I've got with this one is I can't trust the Patriots to, put points on the board. This is you just said the 6 points in an NFL game there. I'll kind of double up on that one as well. The Patriots in their last 3 games are 0-3, and they have not allowed more than 10 points in any one of those games. They have somehow managed to lose games where they are holding opponents to 10 points or less in that. So, whole lot of issues going on there in New England. I am going to take Pittsburgh because I do think that we find a way for them to win this game 9-3. And that's really about all the more confidence I have in this one. See maybe 12 total points put up in this one. So taking the under here on a Thursday night. Taking Pittsburgh there. I know Alex is going to be taking Pittsburgh at the as well. He's going to he says the over is going to come into play. And he's taking Pittsburgh as a prop here, pivoted all the way off of players, and he's taken just the team to be under 18.5 total points.
That's not a bad prop based
It's
off the
not.
stat you just read, right? Like I'm okay with that. So my challenge to that is you can't have Pittsburgh cover by 6, hit the over, and that happen.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
unless I'm missing something, that is mathematically impossible.
I don't think you missed it because, all right, let's just play it out, right? Like, so it's 18.5. So say Pittsburgh scores 18. They win by exactly 6 for a push. That puts you to 30 for a push.
Yeah. So you miss on the spread and you miss on the over under.
Actually, you would push on the other two. So
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a miss, right? Like it's so
that's an interesting deal there.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely covered his bases. He's for sure going to be at least, I guess not for sure. I mean, we could see this go a whole lot of different ways. He could be 0-3, but the best he could do
is push and 1.
Right. Or
he could go 2.
I mean, he could go 2-1, right? I mean, but he cannot get all 3. It's just interesting, right? And it's nothing. I see what Alex was after, and I don't know that he's necessarily wrong, but the over surprises me.
Yes. Go ahead and hit your prop if you hadn't.
Okay. For my prop, I'm going to take Bailey Zappi over 161.5 passing yards. I'm not expecting a ton out of this New England offense, but I do think he finds a way to get to 170, 175 passing yards. Like in today's NFL in general, it is really difficult for your starting quarterback to come in under 161 passing yards. And Pittsburgh's defense is good. They're going to get after Bailey Zappi, but he is a gunslinger. Although his ADOT is not very good, but he still likes to sling it. He's an interesting quarterback, right? Like he is not afraid to rip it, but he rips it really short.
I see you. I'm going to rocket arm this thing all of 8 yards.
Yeah, exactly. 5 yards at a clip, but he will let that 5 yards rip, and the amount of, I guess, deflected passes, even off his own players, because he just goes 0 to 1,000 right into him from 5 yards away. It's tough for receivers to hold on to.
That is true. I like what you said about the fact that it's really hard to have that few passing yards and all of that. I am going to still call for Mitch Trubisky, though, to go under 183.5 passing yards. Just, again, I think this is going to be a whole lot of kind of war of attrition in this Thursday night game. And really, it's just too bad we didn't get this one flexed out and this one buried in the morning slate of games. So
yeah, I need to read the flex rules and how they couldn't flex this out. Like, this is a terrible game.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So COD Reaper asking the question of drop the Jets, pick up Packers, Texans, Saints, Vikings, Chargers, Rams, Raiders. Anyway, a whole bunch of defenses in there. A lot of these guys aren't really worth going through, so I'm not going to bother reading them. But if you're looking to play a team, play a roster this week, Texans, certainly a good move there. The Saints would also be another good move. They've got a very kind of plus matchup here.
Yeah. I think for this week, if you're doing it, it's the Texans.
Yeah, I'd agree. Saying that the kicker is Aubrey. Yeah.
You're good with that.
Let that ride. Gigi, nervous about week 15, Thursday night, Chargers versus the Raiders. If Herbert and Allen don't have a good game, we might be toast. There's always that possibility when you got those stacks going like that. But they've been good pretty much all year.
They've been good. The Raiders have been giving it up through the air. Like they're they've given up the 9th most fantasy points over the last 4 weeks to wide receivers at 38.87 points a game in half-point scoring. So I do think that you will be fine. The Chargers just need to remember that they play 4 quarters and not just 2 drives out of a game.
Yeah. Somebody should get Brandon Staley on the phone and let him know that. So
I get it. They can only lose so many weapons, but at the same time, you have Austin Eckler, and I still don't feel like they're using him correctly.
Right.
But that's a Kellen Moore situation just as much as anything else.
All righty. Well, let's get into some pine and shine here for week 14. Do you want to take Alex's pines or do you want to shines this week?
I'll take his shines.
All righty. I'll take the pines for one Mr. Alex. All right, guys. It's time for the pines and the shines. Week 14. The pines, of course, are guys that we are thinking are going to underperform their projections. And, maybe you need to consider that into your roster decisions here and make some other moves to make those marches towards trashes and trophies here. So, Alex, calling for his running back pine here. He's going to take Josh Jacobs as his running back pine. Josh Jacobs up against a tougher matchup there with Minnesota. Minnesota giving up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs.
Sorry, I thought you were still going. I was waiting.
Nope, you're good.
My apologies. So for my pine this week, I am going Kyron Williams. Coming in at RB12, projected total of 15.1 points. Games in Baltimore typically do not go well for the road team. And I know he's kind of been the fantasy darling when he has played, but I think this week it's going to be a real challenge for him to get going, as the Ravens have just not allowed opposing offenses, period, to get going in Baltimore.
Fair enough. I could absolutely see that one coming to fruition there as well. I'm going to take Tony Pollard as my pine. Going up against the Eagles. I think the Eagles are looking to bounce back after just getting shellacked by the Niners here. Tough, divisional game here. The Eagles giving up the fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs here. So this is one where I would be looking to pivot Tony Pollard or looking for other upside elsewhere on this one. Let's go ahead and hit up the wide receivers. And Alex, not a fan of that Jake Browning QB play there because he's calling for just Jamar Chase to be his pine. Jamar currently the wide receiver 13 on the week, projected to do about 12.5 points. Yeah, going up against the Colts, and the Colts have been kind of a middling defense when it comes to allowing opposing wide receivers fantasy points.
I am pining Nico Collins this week after a great week against the Broncos, going up against the Jets this week. No Tank Dell to help spread out coverage a little bit, and I think Nico's going to struggle here a little bit with the pass rush in Stroud's face, being able to get the ball out. So he's wide receiver 18, projected total of 12.9 points and half point PPR. He's going to need a lot of help to get here going up against this Jets passing defense. I think he falls just short.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm going to take a guy that's, for our scoring purposes, at least have upside, not much downside for the way that this thing's set up there. And I'm going to take Justin Jefferson coming back off of IR, right? One of those that, again, I want to see what he looks like in a in a game before really rock and roll in that one. I'm sure that he'll probably do very well, but I think that wide receiver 4 on the week projected to do 15 points. I think that's a little bit lofty for a guy that has missed a whole lot of the season on that one. And I want to see him get back in here and get into a game before I start really banking on that one. So I think he misses.
Yeah,
Tight
I'm
ends.
debating whether I'm even going to play him in our home league this week.
Yeah, there's some of that you may not have to, especially because you've gone this long without it, and you have other places that you can pivot to just to see how that looks and works. So
yeah, I don't know, and that's kind of where I'm debating. Right, there's just the fear of, and if I was fighting for the playoffs, I'm going down with Jefferson, right? Like
right.
if you were fighting for a playoff spot, you were playing Justin Jefferson over, anybody not named CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, and Tyreek Hill.
Right.
Period.
Yep.
You go down with your aces in their places. I don't have to worry about that, thankfully, in this situation. So now it's just seeding. And so am I going to take the baseline and known target, acquisitions of Michael Pittman is who I'm comparing him to in this case. Does not have the upside that Jefferson does, but he sees 12 targets a game or 10 targets a game.
Right.
And him and Minshew do have a bit of a connection. So I can take, 6 catches and 80 yards, maybe a touchdown, and coast at that wide receiver 2 position, or I can go for the gusto and play Jefferson when I don't really have to. But if he is getting acclimated, and I am not going to even say the I word with Jefferson, but he's going to get acclimated. So if he comes out and has, 3 catches for 55 yards, that's not going to do it for me.
Right. Absolutely. Although, you're gonna make that move and he's gonna blow up on your bench, kind of like me for Monty early in the season.
I can live with that for 1 week, right? Like, I mean, and that's the position where I've put myself and kind of constructed it. Like I said, if I needed to win to get in, I'm playing Jefferson. I am going down with my first round draft pick.
Fair enough. All righty, tight ends. Alex calling for Taysom Hill to be the Pine, projected to be tight end 7 on the week, about 8.5 points, going up against Carolina. And Carolina has been pretty stout against the opposing tight ends, where they're the 5th fewest fantasy points allowed.
Yeah, Alex hates Taysom Hill.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a pine for him a lot this season. Alex is not a fan of Taysom Hill. So I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out. I hope it doesn't, mainly because I'm trying to catch up. Like I need Alex to take some negatives. So I'm hoping that doesn't pan out for that purpose. But you never know. He is leader in the clubhouse here at the moment. So I shouldn't critique it too much. I'm going to say Pine, Dalton, Kincaid. Over the last 4 weeks, the Chargers have given up the 5th fewest points to opposing tight ends. Buffalo is hobbling, right? Like they have to essentially win out. The Chargers just went into Lambeau and really got beat up. by the Packers, and a lot less than inspiring and lackluster performance by the Fighting Patrick Mahomes. But nevertheless, the defense still comes to play, and I think Dalton Kincaid is going to have a down week for the Buffalo Bills.
Fair enough. I'm gonna take Cole Kmet as my pine here for this one. He's currently the tight end 11, projected to do all of about 8 points in this one. He's going up against Detroit. Detroit has been a little bit more forgiving with to opposing tight ends here, but I think this is a week that we just see him not get it done and miss out on those projections. Let's go ahead and head right on into the shines for week 14. And the shines, of course, are guys that we think are going to outperform their projections and give you a good week.
So Alex's first shine for running back, Raheem Mostert, coming in running back 16, projected total of 12.8 points. And I can't say that I blame him here. Raheem Mostert has had a great season. He has really kind of carried that running back room for the Dolphins. Yes, I know we've seen Achane go off and be super explosive. But if you look back to last week, and it's just a one-game sample size, but in the first half, Raheem Mostert outsnapped Achane 3-1. In the second half, Raheem Mostert played 5 snaps. That was it. 5 snaps in the entire second half because the game was out of reach. It was done and over with. I'm thinking we see a little bit more balance here in this week. And I like this pick for Alex. I think it has a lot of good upside because Mostert's been a great asset and great late round acquisition for fantasy rosters this season with all the injuries and everything else.
I like it.
I am going Chuba Hubbard, running back 31 on the week, projected total of 11.6. Tampa Bay has been slipping against New Orleans, not Tampa Bay. New Orleans has been slipping against the run here in recent weeks. So over the last 4 weeks, the Saints that come marching in. Where is my stat that I just lost? Yes, sorry. The Saints are giving up 24.7 points to opposing running backs, and within that total, they have given up a grand total of 4 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks, right? So the ball continues to go towards Chuba Hubbard as Miles Sanders is kind of permanently in the doghouse there in Carolina. So I think he's able to get there and outscore his 31 rank. And I think he can get to 12, 14 points in this game.
Fair enough. I'm going to take Derrick Henry, who, for whatever reason, it was ranked running back 22 on the week. 11.8 points projected. I know a lot of folks had, Schefter made a tweet about him being in concussion protocol. Vrabel came out today saying he wasn't in concussion protocol. Looked like he was a full participant at practice today. So I think that Derrick Henry's going to easily outperform that running back 22 on the week. Miami's a middle of the road defense when it comes to opposing running backs here. Not really a plus, not really a negative matchup, just a pretty neutral, straight up deal here. And I think that we see Derrick Henry find the end zone and get some decent run here against Miami. Let's go ahead and head on into the wide receivers.
All right, receivers. Alex is taking Zay Flowers, wide receiver 24, projected point total of 10.8. This should be a good matchup. The Rams do a pretty decent job against opposing wide receivers, but again, Baltimore's at home, and they have not been messing around with teams when they're at home. They've just been laying the wood to them. So a lot of upside there with Zay Flowers.
I like it.
I am going to take Jaden Reed. He continues to be hyper efficient in this Packers offense. Obviously, with the Christian Watson news and trying to wait and see what's going on with him, that could lead for more touches for Jaden Jaden Reed, wide receiver 27. He's projected 8.8 points. I think we could easily see him get to 12 this week for the Packers.
I like it. I'm going to take Rashee Rice for my shine here. He's currently the wide receiver 22, projected to do about 10.9 points. The Bills, again, kind of in that neutral script as far as as far as opponent goes. However, Rashee Rice has certainly been one of Patrick Mahomes' favorite targets as of late. 10 targets, 9 targets. And I think that we see a lot of that kind of continue here. And, if he's getting peppered with targets, I think he can outperform that projection. Go ahead and head to tight ends.
Tight ends. Alex is thinking Pat Frymuth has a bounce back week. Tight end 12, projected total of 7.9 points. We'll see Thursday night, right? They're going to have to. Mitch Trubisky is going to have to get the ball out. So I understand where Alex is coming from here. Pat Frymuth could see 6-7 catches in this game, right? Just because of Mitch trying to get the ball out quickly to his playmaker. So again, sneaky upside in this one, in a game that we all think is going to be, I guess Alex took the over, but Derek and I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring affair.
That's fair.
And then I am going with Cade Otton. Tight end 15, projected total of 5.1 points. This is kind of the touchdown play. This is kind of my Hail Mary play of the week. I need Otton to fall into the end zone and really get me some bonus points here because I gotta play catch up somehow.
That's fair. So I'm going to end up pivoting off of the guy that I was going to rock and roll with here.
We have a mind changer, do we?
We do have the mind of the changing. I'm going to take Brevin Jordan to rock and roll here. They had an okay week last week here against Denver, playing the Jets. And while that looks like a very tough matchup on paper, the Jets are allowing the 6th most points to opposing tight ends. So I'm going to take Brevin Jordan, who right now is, I got to find the ranking on this thing because he's so far down here, but taking Brevin Jordan, who right now is tight end 38, projected to do about 2.5 points.
Swinging for the fences.
Might as well, right? Like you got to win or go home. So
that's right.
I got you guys trying to come up from behind and get the overtake that first place. So I gotta do what I can to hold you off. So alrighty. And Gigi saying big thanks. Thumbs up as always, fellas. Appreciate it. And alrighty then. Thanks for the help for helping guys this year. It's been a blast. Let's finish strong. That's coming from Mr. COD Reaper. Absolutely. It has been a whole lot of fun here. But I don't know that we've got anything else to rock and roll here. So let's go ahead and hit up final thoughts and we'll call it a night.
Final thoughts for the week. Florida State did not deserve to get into the college football playoff. I need people to stop whining and crying and complaining about this. It is the 4 best teams that get in. Florida State, with not having their starting quarterback available to them, is not one of the 4 best teams. Congratulations, you won the ACC. It is a very it's hard. It's hard to win all these games, and I understand that, but we're not giving out participation awards here. We are building the 4 best teams for this last season and putting them into a 14 playoff. Next year, when there's 12, absolutely they would get in. We've seen that in the rankings, but this year the committee got it right. They did. They just got it right. Georgia did not deserve to be in with the lackluster performance that they put in the SEC championship game. They looked uninspired. The play calling was very vanilla, and it was just a team lacking a lot of passion. They looked tired. So Georgia didn't deserve to be in as much as I wanted them to have the opportunity for the three-peat. They didn't deserve it either. They are probably the next two best, which is why they're playing each other in the Orange Bowl. We'll see how that shakes out. But the College Football Playoff Committee did get it right this year. So everybody who's, the conspiracy theory and ESPN and the SEC and all this, get off of it. Get off of it. Because the reason they talk about Bama is because Bama gets the clicks, right? At this point, what's done is done. They have no influence over the committee, but now they're talking about them because they always get a response. It is what it is. And truth be told, my opinion, we will have a Texas-Alabama rematch for a national title game.
There you go. Calling the shot. All righty. Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back Friday night. We're going to be doing things a little bit different. Make sure that you bring your questions so we can rock and roll through those and all of that. So we'll be doing things a little bit different on the Friday night weekly huddle here. So it should be a good time. We'll hopefully see Alex back here next Tuesday. But he's Kevin. I'm Derek. You can find us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. And of course, head over to the YouTube channel, click that subscribe button, ring that bell. But that's going to do it for us. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.